Hello, I'm Richard Seltzer. I'd like to share with you a story from my book To Gether Tales, which will soon be published by All Things That Matter Press. In the book, the narrator, in the midst of the pandemic, thinks back to a 7-day Caribbean cruise he was on a few years before, on which 8 people shared a dinner table and swapped stories every night. The narrator laments that with social distancing and mask wearing, love at first sight may no longer be possible. Imagine that you are on that cruise and the story is told by someone sitting across from you at the dinner table. Love at second sight. A 70-year-old man is on a transatlantic flight. The plane is full, the seats are small, with little legroom. He's elbow to elbow with a stranger, a woman of comparable age, in the window seat beside him. He's tired and lonely. He's a recent widower, went on a trip to Paris alone and saw nothing, met no one, just ate, slept, and wandered through the streets in a fog. Now he wants to sleep. The sooner the flight is over, the better. He's relieved that this woman beside him hasn't started a conversation. He drifts off and has a memory dream of when he was 17 on a flight back from Paris, where he had spent the summer on a student exchange program. A girl his age was in the window seat beside him. Short, maybe 5'2" or 5'3", with jet black hair and a Botticelli face. She was wearing a bulky white sweater and a red and green plaid skirt. Her blue-green eyes were concentrating on L'Étranger by Camus, which she was reading in French without a dictionary. He presumed that she, like he, was returning home. He wondered if she, too, lived near Philadelphia, or if this was just the first leg of her journey. He wanted to strike up a conversation, but didn't know how to start. It would have been easy when he first sat down, but he had let that moment pass, and he didn't want to get off to a bad start, interrupting a reading when she was deeply involved. He would wait. Eventually, she'd put the book down, or a stewardess would stop by to offer food and drinks. He pulled a book out of his backpack, Introduction à la méthode de Leonardo da Vinci by Paul Valéry. That should impress her, if she noticed. He didn't take out his French-English dictionary, even though he would need it. He looked intently at the pages. He was so self-conscious that he couldn't make sense of the words on the page, but he turned the pages as if he were reading. Then he realized that he was turning the pages too fast to be credible. He hoped she hadn't noticed. He didn't want her to think he was a phony trying to impress her. He slowed down, turning pages at the same pace that she turned hers. Otherwise, he sat stock still, maintaining what he imagined was a sophisticated, intelligent look, until he drifted off to sleep. When he woke, the plane was dark, except for foot-level lights in the aisle. It took a while for him to orient himself, to remember that he's on a plane. He felt a strange sensation in his left hand. As his eyes adjusted to the dark, he realized that the girl's hand was resting on his. Apparently, she was asleep. Her book was open, upside down, draped across her lap. Her skirt was scrunched up, revealing her right thigh nearly to her underpants. Her hand probably fell into his by accident when she fell asleep. Since her eyes were closed, he felt free to look at her closely. She was gorgeous. Her pouty lips, her cleft chin, the bit of hair above her nose between her eyebrows. Every detail of her looks became to him an indicator of beauty, even though he had never thought of those features that way before. And her hand and his, their fingertips barely brushing, gave him an erotic sensation beyond anything he had ever experienced, far more intimate than a kiss, even a French kiss, with his girlfriend back home. Dreamlike images passed through his mind, him talking to her and the two of them falling for each other, and despite all odds, finding ways to meet each other again. Then they're going to the same college, and later marrying, having kids and grandkids. Their whole future life together flashed through his mind, and it was a wonderful life, and the first step would be to speak to her. But he was paralyzed. He didn't dare move his hand, much less speak. What would she think of him if she woke to find that the stranger beside her was holding her hand? And he didn't want to move his hand. He didn't want this intense sensation, this magic moment to end. He was hungry and thirsty. He had to urinate, but he couldn't move. He felt an electric tingle through his fingertips, coming from her fingertips. She must be awake, just pretending to sleep. She might feel drawn to him just as he was to her. This might be a moment of mutual ecstasy, more than just chance. The two of them fated to meet like this. Then, unprompted by his conscious mind, his hand squeezed her hand. He felt a shock of fear, mingled with hope. He would never have done that deliberately. This moment, this possible future life, might now be over, ending in embarrassment and shame that he would dare to take the hand of a girl he had never spoken to, a stranger on a plane. But having squeezed, he couldn't help but hope for a miracle. And the miracle happened. She squeezed back. He had to urinate badly, but he didn't dare break the contact, losing his only connection with her, his only hope. He studied her face. There was not the least sign of recognition or consciousness. She was probably dreaming, imagining that his hand was someone else's hand. By chance, he had become a placeholder in her dream, a substitute for the person she wished she were with. He felt like an intruder. He didn't deserve her tender fingertip caresses, her gentle squeezes, her light sensory passion, but he welcomed any contact with her. If her feelings were already fixed on someone else, he had no chance with her, and this accidental contact with her was all he could hope for. He would savor it while he could and cherish this moment in his dreams for the rest of his life. Then he wakes up. Yes, he's on a plane. Yes, he remembers that he's on his way home from Paris, but he's 70, not 17. A woman's hand is in his hand, but it's not the hand of a teenage girl. It's the hand of a mature woman, about the same age he is. She's asleep, like the girl in the dream. Black hair with gray roots, pouty lips, cleft chin, a bit of hair between her brows. Her hand squeezes his hand, and he has an electric shock of recognition. "Hello," she says. "It's been ages since we did this before, and maybe this time we'll get it right." If you enjoyed this story, please let me know in comments, and I'll do more of the same. You can find my books at Amazon. My name again is Richard Seltzer, as in Alka-Seltzer. My most recent books are Parallel Lives, Beyond the Fourth Door, and Nevermind. They can be read in any order. They're independent stories with overlapping theme and styles. Each presents a different view of reality, a different way of trying to make sense of the mysteries of life.